All right, so I'm gonna be making a video on how to get good at Violence District, because a lot of you guys are shit, and I'm tired of having bad teammates. So we're gonna start the presentation off with objectives. All right, this is going to be very simple. So you have your survivors. So when you're starting to play the game, you're gonna realize, okay, as a survivor, I want to work on gens. You wouldn't be surprised. You'd be surprised the amount of people I meet who are level like 50, 60 and don't know how to work on a generator. So that's a good reminder. That's part of the game. You want to save survivors. So you want to save your teammates. Yeah, people don't do that. Or sometimes they do it too much. You know, you never know. It's like a 50-50 gamble. Stall for gens. So what this means is stop dying in the first 2 seconds that you're getting chased, please. Give your teammates some time to do the gens. And we're going to teach you how to do that in this tutorial, this guide. This will teach you everything you need to know. Open exit gates. Okay, so at the end of the game, you got to make sure you open the exit gates. And then at the bottom here, I included this in the survivor side. The game is easier as a survivor when you start the game. So when you come into the game and there's 5 gens still, the killer has to watch 7 generators. There's no way he can do that. So the game is very easy when you first start because you have a killer who's looking at 7 different generators. Now that we've gone on to that, we're going to go on to the killer side of things. So we have the killer. So killers, their objective is to manage the generators. So they don't want you to get progress on them, so they're going to kick them. They are going to kill the survivors instead of saving them. And they are going to stall for time. So while you're stalling for gens, they're stalling for time. And they want to deny exit gates for you guys so that you guys can die. So stall for gens, what this means is you're running around stalling for time so that your teammates are working on stuff. For killer, they're stalling for time so that the game can end. The survivors can only win in one way, which is opening up exit gates. Killers can win in 2 different ways, which is killing all the survivors or using all the time allotted in the game. So they're able to win in either way, which gives them a little bit more leeway there, which is why sometimes you can just win games off of not killing anybody and just stalling for time, which we'll get into as a strategy later on. And then at the bottom here, I included game is easier at the end. So because obviously, like I said, there's 7 generators at the start of the game. When you get to 1 or 2 generators, there's only 3 or 4. So you're dealing with half the amount of generators, which makes the game a lot easier. Alongside the fact that people will likely be dead by the end of the game or close to dying because they'll have multiple hooks. So that'll make the end game a lot easier for you as a killer. Here is the one secret that'll increase your movement speed by 200%. I know, it's crazy. Get ready, guys. I know you're not ready. It's hugging your fucking walls, bro. The amount of people that I meet that play this game that are like higher level than me or around my level and they don't understand. Yeah, hug your corners, bro. Just hug your fucking corners. Stop being trash. This is not a hard concept to understand, and so I'm going to explain to you why you need to do this. So here's why. So this guy here, the red aura, this is the killer. This is my beautiful drawing, by the way. I know I'm very talented. This long line is his path, right? And he's a bot. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, so he's gonna walk all the way around the fence. Meanwhile, this is pro. This is me right here because I'm goated. I'm going close to the wall, and boom. You know what I'm saying? So this is a window. This is a door. So I'm trying to get to this door so I can hit this window to loop him around or whatever. And he's taking the long way. I'm taking the short way. And the reason why this is good for me to be holding close is because I'm moving less distance than he is because he's going all the way around. He's moving like this. I'm moving like that. So I'm actually way faster than him because I'm moving less distance. Even though we're moving around the same obstacle, I'm getting to where I need to be faster than him because I'm on the inside and he's on the outside. So you always want to be looping wherever you're going and whatever path you're going in the most straightest line possible and as close to it as possible. All right. Understanding pathing, survivor. Okay. So as a survivor, well, in general, pathing just equals where you walk. All right. Um, it's how you walk as well. So if you walk good, you get wins. If you walk good, like I said, free elo. And if you keep walking good, you will clear the gens fast, and then you'll be good for the late game. And that's pretty much it. And then how do you walk good? So to walk good, you need to use your legs. And you should be prioritizing gens as soon as you get into the game. So as soon as you load in, you should be working on a generator. Prioritize middle gens to avoid 3-genning. So what this means, in the end game, killers are going to have a very good chance of winning, probably like a 99% chance of winning, if you leave them a 3-gen. So stop doing this in your games. I hate when people do this. If you're new to the game, stop doing the gens on the edge of the map first, because what ends up happening is you leave all the gens in the middle, and then the killer gets a free 3-gen that he can just walk 20 seconds to each gen, and then you're stuck losing because he's just going to camp the gens until the end of the game. So what a 3-gen means basically is when 3 gens are so close together that the killer could just basically play walk simulator until the game ends. It doesn't have to put any effort into actually winning the game because he's already won. He can just camp the 3 gens, kick them, hit somebody if they're nearby, and then just keep doing it over and over and over until the game ends. So stop leaving the middle gens available. That's not good. You're going to get the entire game screwed at the end. Stop missing skill checks and having the reaction time of a fucking chatbot. Yep. So I don't know what age the kids are on this game, but if you can't land the skill check, it's not very hard. You don't even need to land like the good skill checks. Like obviously that would help speed up a game a little bit, like maybe a couple seconds, but just like not failing the gen is infinitely better than getting 10% of the great skill checks. So just land the skill checks. Like, you're just giving free info away. You're losing progress. You're probably going to take a hit state because the killer's going to know, oh, this guy's over here and he's bad. And yeah, so just don't do that. And then obviously this goes into movement as well. Holding tight to the walls, like I said, a shorter way to walk is going to make it so that you stall the killer for longer and you get to your objectives faster. So you just want to make sure that you're always holding those walls nice and tight. And then understanding pathing as a killer. Okay, so if you have good pathing as a killer, you can control the gens, you get free wins, and you get all the hus. And the reason why you get all the hus is because if you have good pathing, you can set up late game conditions where you basically just win, guaranteed, by 3-genning, essentially, or getting a very good setup that is equivalent to a 3-gen or something similar. So I'll get into that in a second. So how do you walk good? Okay, so you walk to a gen and you kick the gen. And then if somebody's nearby, you just hit them. I didn't include that in the notes for some reason, but it should be there somewhere. You want to prioritize camping the middle gens or whatever gens are the 3-gen on that map. So let's say in your map, all the 3-gens are, like, I'll give you an example. That one map that's like the forest with the house in the middle. If you want a 3-gen on that map, the 3-gen would be the one that's in the bathroom, the one that's on the brick building, and the one that's on the other brick building right across from it. So because those gens are so close together, you can check all 3 of those gens within 20 seconds. So the killers would never win. So what you want to do as a killer is you just want to be sitting on these gens all game. Because guess what? It doesn't matter if you lose the other gens. Now they have to repair these gens, and there's only a couple of them, and you're camping the fuck out of them, and they just lose. So stop over prioritizing babysitting all 7 gens. You're not going to be able to take care of all 7 gens. You just need to take care of the most important ones. So I would spend 80% of your time in the game just focusing on like 3 or 4 gens, and then just checking the other gens if they aren't working on those 4. if you're just playing for fun, of course you could just try and go for kills and stuff. But if the players are a little bit better, you're going to get punished the second that you stop camping, a couple gens. So prioritize that if you want to win. And the reason why that is also good into late game is because now they're forced to do every other gen, and then you'll be set up for a 3 gen for the late game, and then you'll just win. And we'll get into that in a second. Avoid chasing one dude for 15 minutes. So let's say you're on one of these 3 or 4 gens that you're camping for most of the game, and he's just really good, and you're just really ass. Just give up. Just at the end of the day, you can win this game without even killing a single survivor. You could literally play a triple gen the entire game and win without ever, you still have to hit them to scare them, but you don't actually have to kill anybody. You could literally play the entire game just hitting them off of gens and still win. So it's not really that important. It just, obviously it's nice to get kill states on players, but it's not a big deal. You don't have to kill anybody. You literally could just kick gens the entire game and just, especially if you have the right perks for it, you could just rotate between a 3 gen and just win. So, and obviously if you want to walk good, you want to hold tight to your wall so you can hit survivors faster and get back to gens. So like I was saying, when you go to hit these gens, like kick them down, you want to be able to just hit the survivor off really fast. So if you can hold tight to those walls, you can get to the gens faster with your movement, and you can also hit the survivors faster so you can move on to a new gen. And then here are some tips for survivors. So I just listed out a bunch of random things or tech or things like that that will be important for you as you get into the game. So I basically gave you guys a very simple guideline to just get better. And everything else that you'll need to know, you'll just learn with time, because it's a very simple game that you only really get better at when you play it more and you deal with better killers. But pallet greeting. So what's greeting a pallet? So greeting a pallet is when you hold onto a pallet so that you don't need to drop it so that it can be used later on. So this can be good for 2 things. So one, when you drop a pallet, the killer can now break that pallet, which activates a bunch of different perks for them, and then also gives them a space that can't be used anymore as a safe spot. So when you drop a pallet, you're saying, hey, you can break this pallet now, and this entire space is basically unsafe now. So you want to try and not drop pallets unless it's absolutely necessary, which is fine, because obviously you're going to need to drop pallets. Like when I say don't drop them at all, I'm not saying don't drop them at all. I'm just saying, greed them if you can. Like if you can do another whole loop around that thing and he's not going to hit you, loop or greed the pallet. You know what I'm saying? The more time you can get at one pallet, the better. Because as soon as you drop that pallet, he can break it, and then you're going to be forced into a new loop, and now you're going to waste another pallet. So getting the most time you can out of each pallet is very important. And then pallet stunning. So a big issue that I see with players a lot is they just don't stun with the pallet. Like they don't go for the stun at all. Like they'll just see the killer maybe 10 feet in front of the pallet, and they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw it down to scare him. The benefit of a pallet stun is that you get a lot of different options. So you can run away for one. It stalls time. It stops their attack. So alongside that, you can also use pallet stuns to save survivors if they're on the pallet spot, which people should be doing, and nobody ever does for some reason. Nobody ever sits on the pallet spot when they're down, which they should be, so that they can get saved when you drop the pallet on them. But yeah, there's very useful things to do with pallet stunning, and a lot of people just refuse to learn how to drop a pallet on a killer. They're just like, all right, I'm just gonna drop it early. And I mean, it's not the worst thing you can do, but you're just losing a lot of opportunities, which goes into the third point, which is basically stop dropping pallets under no pressure. You shouldn't be dropping a pallet when the killer's not even close to you, or when you can run another loop, or you're out in the open. There's literally no reason to drop the pallet. You're just telling the killer, hey, I'm just gonna give you a free broken pallet. So very big troll you're throwing. And then these are more tech stuff. So not really tech, but just tips and stuff. So Jason pallet countering. So when Jason goes into his ghost form and he's moving super fast and he's going all around the map, you should immediately be either at a window or a pallet, preferably a pallet, so that when he comes out of his cloak, you're ready to drop the pallet on him, and you're good to go. This is one of Jason's stronger abilities, so if you're not at a pallet, this could be very dangerous because he could just appear right behind you on a gen, and then that's how you lose free health. So you just want to sit on your pallet, and if he comes by, you sit on whatever side he's not on, and then you stun him. If he tries to stand on top of the pallet, you just stun him as soon as he comes out of the cloak, and then just dash to whatever side he's not on. And then the recent kill that came out, Plague Doctor, is pretty OP, unless you know how to kill the zombies, which if a zombie comes to a pallet, you can stun the zombie with the pallet, and it kills the zombie. So that will help you deal with Plague Doctor a lot, because you don't want to deal with 5 zombies at the end of the game, which is absolute cancer. Obviously, run good perks. If you're not running good builds, you're just going to lose in this game. It's very build dependent. Be unpredictable. So what that basically means is you can't just run in the same direction every single time. Sometimes the killer is going to know that, hey, if I just go the other way, I could just cut them off. So don't be an idiot. Just sometimes go the other direction or leave the loop entirely. Read what the killer is doing based off his movement. So if he doesn't see you for a second and you think you can just run away, you can just do that. There's times where you just got to do stuff that the killer's not going to expect. Sometimes you can just vault right in front of them, and they think, oh, okay, he's playing the loop smart. He's not just going to randomly vault the window, and you just do because you just play the dumbass. And he's like, okay, I wasn't expecting to be a dumbass, and I whiff. Or sometimes when there's no pallets or anything nearby, I'll run purposely into the killer and go behind him. And, especially if they're on mobile or Xbox or whatever, you just dodge the attack, which kind of goes into abuse 180s. When you have no options, which shouldn't be too often, like you shouldn't be playing this game and feeling like, damn, I always have to do a 180 or whatever. But if you do feel like that, basically what a 180 is when you're running in one direction and you turn your camera and your movement to basically catch the killer off guard. So what I usually do is I'll run to a point where, maybe I'm like just about to get underneath their red aura, their kill aura, and I will just turn into them and try to go as close behind them as I can. And when I circle around them, I'm trying to chase onto their back so that their camera literally has to turn 180 to fully hit me. And if you're playing against a really bad killer, that'll work a lot. So it's just a free way to basically stall time if you have no other options. And then when to run versus when to play the loop. So this goes back to being unpredictable. You basically just have to have the game sense to know, okay, when is this killer losing distance on me if I play the loop or if I run? So when you drop a pallet down and they break it, that's the perfect time to run because you've just lost the loop. There's no other pallets there. And you get a bunch of time that he's basically stunned to run in the opposite direction of him and gain space. So at that point, you would just give up the loop and find a new loop by running away. You can also run when you land a stun. So like, let's say, for example, you're running Parry Dagger. Once you stun him, you can parry him and then run to a different loop or run to a different place and work on a gen. So you should always, for the most part, if you stun somebody, you should probably just run so you can gain distance and just abuse the fact that they were stunned. I would stay to the loop when you don't have a clear opportunity. So like if the killer is at a very small loop and there's not like a good spot to leave, you just keep playing the loop as long as you can. And then when you get hit is when I would run, because when you get hit, you get a speed boost, and playing the loop means you're just wasting the speed boost because you're just running right back into him. So I would just run whenever you get hit or whenever you get a stun. That's like the best advice I can give. And then run if you feel like you can get away. Like if he doesn't see you and he's still looking for you, just run away. And then check spots. So this is going to be where you get your information on what decisions to make. So at every loop, there's going to be some kind of corner or door or window or something where you can check where the killer is. And when you do that, that gives you the information to be like, okay, I can either leave or I can loop this way or run that way, or I can drop this pallet, etc. So these are called check spots. So if let's say you're at a spot at a corner and you can see both ends of the loop, that means that you can see, okay, is the killer on the left? Is he on the right? Where do I need to go? And that's essentially what a check spot is. And that's what you're going to base a lot of your decisions on. And obviously as well, I didn't include this in the list, but make sure you're looking at the killer a lot. Like if you're running, you should be looking back quite a bit to know where he's at, because you need the information to make decisions. And if you don't know what he's doing, then you don't know what you're doing. And then that's that whole section. Always go back to the gen as soon as possible. So you should be working on the generator whenever you can. You're wasting time if you're not working on the generator. It doesn't really make a lot of sense in this game to not work on the gen. And then healing should pretty much always be a second priority, because to win this game, you need to get gen progression, and you want to avoid getting 3 gen at the end of the game, and you want to avoid getting gen locked at the end of the game. Like I said, same concept. So if you're busy healing, you could just throw the game entirely, because the killer could just set up conditions where it's basically impossible to win. So I would pretty much always progress the gens over healing, unless you are close to dying. So like, let's say for example, you and your teammate are both on 2 hooks, or you and whoever you're with are all on 2 hooks. You should heal then if you have the chance to, so that you have a better chance at playing out the game. But other than that, especially if you're in a 3 gen, like especially if there's 1 generator left and it's a 3 gen, you should basically never be healing, because the second you go to heal, the killer's going to kick all the gens and you're going to lose all your progress. So yeah, just don't do that. And as a killer, understanding mind gaming. So when you're playing around a loop, you basically have to understand what the survivor is seeing on their screen and what timings they have. So if you're playing especially on a smaller loop, being able to bait a survivor into vaulting a certain way can land you a lot of free hits. There's a lot of times where I'll just walk to the side of a pallet and they don't have enough time to react, so I can just go back to the other side and then just do a lunge swing, and it's a free hit. Mind gaming becomes a little bit less effective when you get on larger, more safer pallets, and in those cases, you should just push through the pallets so that they have to drop them. You don't want to stay on a pallet where the survivor has a ton of space to loop around it, because you're just wasting time over and over and over, and they can loop you 4 or 5 times before you even get them to drop the pallet, and it's a huge waste of time. So if they're on a super safe pallet that has a bunch of distance on both sides of it, or there's like a long wall on it, don't even bother. Just either you get them to drop the pallet or you leave them. It's not worth it. You're going to waste a lot of time. But if it's a smaller pallet, mind gaming is very important, because if you go one way, then they have to go the other way, and then you might be able to catch them on like vaulting on the pallet and swing at them. So that's mind gaming. It's also just important for chasing people in general, so they don't predict where you're going. But kicking pallets, so you should be kicking pallets pretty early on in a chase. You shouldn't. If you spend a minute chase and you could have just kicked a pallet and stopped the chase in the first 20 seconds, you wasted 40 seconds. Like if you do a chase and you're stuck past this pallet that you could have just broken for 5 seconds, and you could have gotten a much shorter chase, then you just wasted time not breaking the pallet. So within the first 10 to 15 seconds of a chase, you should know, okay, am I going to kick whatever pallet they're on or not? If it's a pallet where they're super safe, you should kick it immediately. If it's a pallet where it's kind of risky for them to play the pallet, like like I said, like a smaller pallet that you can mind game, then you can keep the pallet there for a bit, because that they're forced onto a very unsafe pallet where they can get swung at. So getting in the mind of a survivor. So basically what this means is think about the way that a survivor would play. So this kind of goes into mind gaming. Like think of what the survivor sees on their screen, so that you can understand what they're thinking when they make a decision. So if I'm a survivor, I can see the killer a little bit better than I can see myself. So when they're making decisions, they're seeing me around the corner turning around, right? Which means I can kind of just show my presence in one area or one way, and then just go the other way, and because of the fact that the survivor has a bigger field of view because they can see in third person, they're making decisions that you can take advantage of. So always remember that being good at both roles makes you better at the other. So Drop chase if too committed. So this basically goes back to everything else. If you're chasing somebody for a minute, you're wasting so much time. You could be kicking gens or going after the other survivors. So stop chasing people for 2 minutes. You're just wasting time. Aura hide tech. So what this means is because the killer's aura is comes from his face, like at the front of him. If you turn backwards, you can jump people without them seeing your aura, which allows you to jump people if they're not looking around. This is really good on like killers that have a good move speed but not great lunges, because like for example Plague Doctor, his lunge is not the best, but he's very fast, and so he can walk up right behind you on a gen and he can just swing, and a lot of people, especially that aren't looking, he can just turn around a corner doing that and you get swung at. It's also good for mind gaming on pallets, because if somebody can't see your aura around a corner and you go with that knowledge thinking, okay, he's not on this side and he's actually just hiding around the corner with his aura hidden in a corner, then boom, you get hit and he just got a free hit on you because he abused aura hide tech. So this is a very powerful tech, but the only downside is the killer can't really see, because obviously your back is turned to whoever you're doing this to. So you just have to be very mindful and have good game sense of knowing where the killer or where the survivor is in relativity to where you are. Obviously run overpowered perks, which we'll go into at the end of the video. Play Myers or Plague Doc for free wins. These are currently the very broken killers that take pretty much no skill to use and are guaranteed wins if you 3-gen. Especially Myers with certain perks that I'll show in the video later on. Plague Doc is also very strong because, like I said, you have anti-loop, you have the zombies, and that also wastes time and pallets and sets up certain winnable, unwinnable loop conditions. So Plague Doc can be very strong. So those are both pretty much like the best killers I would recommend using. And then if the survivors aren't progressing a gen and are injured, they are likely healing on the edge of the map. Another tip I forgot to put in here. So the game automatically spawns killers on the opposite side of the survivors. So whenever you start the game, within the first minute, you should automatically just be running to the other side of the map and just focusing on the end 3 gens that you see on the map. So if you spawn on the left side of the map, you're probably going to see people within like the right middle of the map or farther. So you shouldn't even be worried about the gens that are closest to you, because nobody can spawn over there. They don't want killers spawning right on top of a survivor within the first 10 seconds. So it's an spawn system. So as long as you know that information, you can abuse it to just run to the other side of the map at the start and find somebody. And then, yeah, pretty, this part is useful because okay, if they're injured, they're healing on the edge of the map. So if you know that information at the start of the game that they're not going to be on your side, it's going to take them a while to traverse onto your side, which means you'll know, okay, they're on this one edge of the map, and then if they're healing, you can just kind of find them. You can kind of just use game sense for this. Like you'll know where people are healing at some point, because people love to heal on the edges of the map where they feel like they're safe. And if they're not making progress on a gen, there's no reason why you shouldn't just go swing at them for a little bit, try and get some healing off of them or damage off on them. But anyways, that's all I have for my slideshow. I'm probably going to have some footage playing over this recording, so you will see different beneficial perks and stuff like that that'll be on the screen. It's very straightforward with perks. A lot of them just increase the strength of what they need to accomplish. So survivors need a loop. So if you want to loop, you go speed perks. If you're a killer and you want a 3-gen, you just go gen damage perks or speed boost perks so you can get to the gens faster. So it's a very straightforward system. There's not really a lot of variety in builds. Like, of course, you could go like a different build just for fun. But once you understand the core concept of the game, you kind of understand what builds are required to either break the loop on the killer side or progress the gens on the survivor side. So yeah, that's pretty much all. And whatever footage I have over, you'll be seeing it. But thank you for watching. And this is how you get good at Violence District.